Hey there folks, so welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art and culture, and it's Billboard Breakdown. So this is the sort of week on the Hot 100 that I like. Not just that it's a cool down week and we got a pretty small list of new arrivals, but also because it's a sort of delayed reaction to a big smash that will often tell you a lot more about what songs actually have momentum right now. Plus, the majority of this week was watching Drake's songs lose out, and I can't say that's entirely a bad thing here. So let's start off with our top 10, and yes, Shape of You by Ed Sheeran is still at number 1, and I'm okay with that. I still like that song. And at this point, I feel like I'm singing it regularly. I don't know what stops it, given that it's still somehow gaining radio and it's dominant in nearly every other category. Sure, That's What I Like by Bruno Mars is still gaining on it at number 2. It's got even more radio momentum. It's surging on streaming and on YouTube. But again, it's second best in every single category in this fight. And I don't see it cutting more deeply into that margin. And it's facing competition from something just like this by the Chainsmokers and Coldplay, rising up to number 3 on momentum in nearly every category except YouTube. But again, it's a margins game, and it might just be too far back right now to really make up a lot of ground. Then we have I Feel It Coming by The Weeknd and Daft Punk up to number 4, which might have peaked at the radio and spent the week slipping in sales and on streaming, probably went up to its position less on its own merits. Contrast that to I Spy by Kyle and Lil Yachty up to number 5, which isn't really strong in sales and is taking its sweet time rising on airplay, but strong streaming, great YouTube, more than enough to compensate. This will probably actually have some staying power, especially when the radio picks up. Now, part of all of this, of course, is linked to the losses of Bad and Bougie by Migos and Lil Uzi Vert down to number 6, which spent the week bleeding in all categories, especially YouTube and streaming, where it took considerable losses. And that's not all. I Don't Want to Live Forever by Zayn and Taylor Swift fell hard to number 7, as sales just evaporated and airplay started dropping pretty damn hard. And Tunnel Vision by Kodak Black might be even worse off at number 8. Yeah, it's still solid on streaming and YouTube, but if you dig deeper into the margins of those numbers, they are dropping off, and that's pretty much all it has. It's got nothing to fall back on. Now this leaves a song like Paris by the Chainsmokers as somewhat viable up to number 9. Sure, it peaked on airplay and sales aren't great, but it feels a little bit more stable overall, and plus the album is coming in less than a week or so. Then to round us out, we have Drake's Passion Fruit at number 10, which is here because of streaming, but it looks like there's a hint of a radio push, so it didn't quite fall as badly. No. If you want to see all of that for Drake, we need to go to our losers and dropouts. What surprised me is that overall, Drake's songs did not all fall off the chart en masse. I mean, a few did, but the more notable losers are Let Me Love You by DJ Snake and Justin Bieber, Goosebumps by Travis Scott and Kendrick Lamar, just as the video dropped too. That's kind of unfortunate. Kill a Word by Eric Church and Rhiannon Giddens, and finally, Make Me Cry by Noah Cyrus and Labyrinth. But then the onslaught begins. The only non-Drake loser this week was Everyday by Ariana Grande and Future to 94. The rest? Okay, Portland with Quavo and Travis Scott down to 21. Fake Love mercifully fades down to 27. Free Smoke evaporates to 40. Galchester is beaten to 43. Blem loses to 48. Teenage Fever goes down to 53. Sacrifices with 2 Chainz and Young Thug slips to 56. Get It Together with Georgia Smith and Black Coffee does not hold up at all at 68. No Long Talk with Gigs stops at 76. KMT with Gigs crashes down to 79. Georgia Interlude with Georgia Smith goes to 83. Madiba Rhythm loses down to 84. Ice Melts with Young Thug dribbles down to 85. Do Not Disturb slides to 86. Glow with Kanye fades down to 89. Can't Have Everything goes to 97. And Nothing's Into Somethings hits 99. Whew. But then again, we all expected all this. Where things get kind of interesting are in our returning entries and gains, where it's a full pack indeed. Let's start off with the latter category, where outside of You're Welcome by Dwayne Johnson scraping onto 100, the rest have been hovering on the margins for some time. Black by Dierks Bentley is back to 87. Yeah Boy by Kelsey Ballerini back to 88. Problems by Black at 96. Good Drank by 2 Chainz, Gucci Mane, and Quavo at 95. And Especially Scared to Be Lonely by Martin Garrix and Dua Lipa back to 92. All these songs have been kind of flirting around the edges, the very bottom of the Hot 100. But where things are picking up a lot more are in our gains. And let's start off with a genre that always pushes back whenever we get a big hit. Country. A lot of recovery here, like In Case You Didn't Know by Brett Young up to 51. Hurricane by Luke Combs up to 55. Any Old Barstool by Jason Aldean up to 62. Road Less Traveled by Lauren Elena up big to 69. Hometown Girl by Josh Turner recovering up to 72. And even The Weekend by Brantley Gilbert is up to 81. But where it's also worth considering are the songs that recovered from getting hit. From Call on Me by Starly up to 80. Losing Control by Russ up to 77. Selfish by Future and Rihanna up to 73. I still think that song will have staying power. Moves by Big Sean picking up to 71. Shining by DJ Khaled, Jay-Z, and Beyonce up to 64. And amazingly, Redbone by Childish Gambino back up to 54. Unfortunately, outside of Slide by Calvin Harris, Frank Ocean, and Migos up to 45, the significant chunk of these gains are pretty awful. Heavy by Linkin Park and Kiara up to 57. Play That Song by Train up to 67. Deja Vu by J. Cole rebounding to 70. And finally, Look at Me by Extentacion surging up to 42. Just lovely. The only game that picked up traction off debuting last week was Swalla by Jason Derulo with Nicki Minaj and Ty Dolla $ign up to 65. But how long any Jason Derulo song lasts these days can be a bit of a crapshoot. So we'll see how much higher it goes, because hey, I remember what happened with Cheyenne. But now, we're on to our pretty small list of new arrivals. And after last week and a look through the world charts to discover that they currently look a lot like the songs that I've already covered, might as well keep this pretty brief. So let's start off with number 66, Still Got Time by Zayn featuring PARTYNEXTDOOR.
Still got time, girl, you still got. Just stop looking for love. You still got time, girl, you still got time. Girl, you still got time.
I can't be the only one that's surprised that Zayn still has charting presence. Yeah, I know, he's got his big collaboration with Taylor Swift, it boosted his profile. It didn't sound bad there, but post One Direction, I've got no gauge in how much staying power Zayn has, especially as Pillow Talk wasn't exactly a single that seemed to have staying power outside of 2016. And wow, I thought we'd at least get a month or two before we get to the obvious Drake ripoffs, because yeah, even though I'm no big fan of Passion Fruit or Drake's more tropical flavored R&B tunes, I know when I hear the barely genuine article, and I know when I hear a wannabe. The guitar melodies are weedy and buried, the percussion is blocky and has none of the organic texture it needs to anchor a tropical progression, and beyond some multi-tracking, he gets no use out of his falsetto, easily Zayn's biggest asset as a singer. It's not a good sign when he's only a step above PARTYNEXTDOOR instead of several flights of stairs or an entire different dimension, and they don't have that much chemistry so much as a blend of auto-tune on top of each other. And as for the content, it's very telling that it's not girls to waste their lives falling in love because they're still young, and thus they should hook up with Zayn and PARTYNEXTDOOR, which, look, it's not precisely bad, at least it's honest that they are just going for just a hookup, but this is also nothing I haven't heard before out of these two, and honestly, probably nothing I'll remember all that much. Number 61, Speak to a Girl by Tim McGraw and Faith Hill.
Respect the hell out of her, 'cause that's how you talk to a woman, and that's how you speak to a girl.
So if you've been following the recent label upheaval in mainstream country music, and I can't imagine why you would, as this sort of label politics can get into dry hearsay territory fast, you would have heard that Tim McGraw has opted not to re-sign with Big Machine and instead join up with Sony Music. Now at first this might ring as a little bit surprising, given that Big Machine got him out of the living nightmare that was Curb Records, but when you also hear that his wife, Faith Hill, is also signed with Sony, and they're now touring and recording a collaborative album together, things make a little bit more sense. And it's worth considering that while Tim McGraw can still produce viable hits in the mainstream right now, Faith Hill's career seemed to stall out in the mid-2000s, even despite her tremendous success in the late 90s and early 2000s, which included several top 10 hits on the Hot 100, not just the country charts. She was a massive hit maker. So okay, you have a powerhouse country couple who's known to have really solid chemistry on songs together, teaming up for another big single, and well, I can see it. absolutely killing on adult contemporary radio, but I'm not exactly wild about it, I'm sorry. It's pretty much across the board here too. I get the point behind Faith Hill's quiet, trembling, and raw tones, but it seems like this sort of production choice might work a little bit better with a song that at least opted for personal focus instead of almost entirely being told in the third person. And when you pair it with that ebbing cloud of electric guitar tones that can feel a tad more synthetic than they really need to, especially on the second hook with the filmy backing vocals in a song that never really builds to a crescendo or a real climax, it can feel a little bit cooler and more emotionally distant than it really should for this sort of song. But part of that, yeah, it's tied to the content. I can appreciate the message of being kind and straightforward with girls that you want to like and maintain relationships with, but the lack of greater detail, it can but feel a little bit detached from the whole scene. Playing too broadly in its poetry to connect more deeply. There's no reason why they're mentioning their mothers on this song. I don't know, it's not bad, I guess, but if this underperforms, oh, I won't be surprised. Number 49, EXO Tour Life by Lil Uzi Vert.
I really shouldn't have lied. Should've saw the way she looked me in my eyes. She said, baby, I am not afraid to die. Push me to the edge, all my friends are dead. Push me to the edge, all my friends are dead. Push me to the edge, all my friends are dead. Push me to the edge.
Okay, I get why this song is here on the charts. Apparently there was some controversy surrounding a remastering of the song that pissed off fans and had to get replaced, and apparently YouTube is doing well. But what surprised me is that there's that much interest in a rapper that I don't think anybody actually likes. Seriously, I do not see where and why Lil Uzi Vert has a fan base, basically following the exact same path as your average trap rapper, but worse. Anyway, this song. You know, something I've noticed with too many of these guys, they can't stay on topic to save their lives, which on a song that actively references suicidal themes in both him and his ex really makes it hard for him to get pulled into the story or emotive through line throughout the course of the track. I'm sorry, I'm not buying into it. But really, between his consistent failure to rhyme words or stay on flow, references to stealing your girl, and scattered shots at wannabes who I'm not sure you can convince me exist, I've long ago stopped caring about his nasal screech singing. He's not a good rapper. Hell, even the production is even worth caring about either. From the sound of a muffled keyboard click against your standard bassy trap beat and a weedy little melody, all supplementing a grainy blend of autotune that certainly doesn't make Lil Uzi Vert sound listenable, let alone good. Yeah, no, this is trash. It's only here thanks to a moment of controversy that everybody has already forgotten about, and for some reason it's getting a bit of YouTube traction. Let's pray that it takes that traction right into a brick wall. Next. And finally, number 22, The Heart, Part 4 by Kendrick Lamar.
Don't tell a lie on me. I won't tell the truth about you. 30 minutes later, my future favors the legendary status of a hip-hop rhyme savior. Travel around the atlas in a spaceship, candy-coated. My day shift been devoted to fucking up bundles of paper.
And now here's the big one, the opening salvo leading into another song and video that I'm almost certain will have major impact next week. Look forward to Humble coming up. And that's all before that what many are predicting an album release set to blow April wide open. And like with records before him, he's proceeding in with another staple of the Heart series, where Kendrick takes on everything in his path, although primarily you could make the argument that he's targeting Big Sean and Drake through references plain enough to make it abundantly clear. Now let me get this out of the way. While Kendrick doesn't have to say names, I would kind of prefer it if he had, just a personal preference when it comes to these sort of beefs. But again, this song is more of a slow burning prelude with a cooing vocal sample from Khalid as the song coasts off a thicker bass and a steady cymbal beat. From the first verse, he implies that upheaval is coming, not just in the rap game, but in society at large as inequality stretches longer and deeper, and the beat switches to a gentle guitar before it gets into a piano-touched sinuous bass that intensifies that darkness. He slaps at Trump before highlighting how America's electoral system probably needs some vestigial reform. Hell, he even references the Russians there, something that kind of surprised me. But then the implication runs more on how it's only a matter of time before that big upheaval happens. Kendrick is rising out of the contradictions in the scene and the ever-increasing confusion as the trap snare kicks in, and while he's letting his foes celebrate for now, the tension is rising even further and even further magnifies as he tosses aside bars that probably would shred any of his targets. And then he drops the date, April 7th, 3 days away, far sooner than anybody would have expected to get a project from Kendrick Lamar. And honestly, I'm not gonna jump aboard the hype train just yet. Timelines are always kind of a tricky thing in hip hop, and note that he never said a year, but still, It could happen. People are already getting ready. Kind of feel bad for Joey Badass, set to release an album the same day. But yeah, it shouldn't even be a surprise who gets best and worst of the tracks of this week. Kendrick gets best for The Heart Part 4. Lil Uzi Vert gets worst for EXO Tour Life. And you know, we'll see where all things go from here. But until next time, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you